Is Xi Jinping losing his grip on power? Now, you might think it's impossible for a country as tightly controlled as Communist China that somebody's sitting on the throne. But the cracks are showing, and I'm going to explain it in today's video. Welcome to another episode of Elite Politics. We haven't done this in a while, but I've been doing a few short videos on just following up with Xi Jinping's dip in his control of power since summer this year. Now, it's really getting harder to hide what's going on in the CCP. And so let's just jump right into it, because what we've seen recently is the PLA Daily, which is essentially the military's newspaper. They released 5 consecutive and counting articles calling for a so-called democratic centralization. Now, sounds harmless, right? Well, don't get your hopes up yet, because they're not about to abandon the CCP. What they're saying is that they want to have a collective leadership rather than a one-man rule, aka we'd rather have multiple people sort of voting on situations rather than having Xi Jinping saying, controlling everything. Now, obviously, with the CCP politics, you have to read between the lines. And so what you're hearing is not just something to do with we have to confront with different operations like a warfare. What you're looking at are direct jabs at Xi Jinping's grip of the military power. Now, as you might know, or you may not know, the CCP essentially is a structure where the paramount leader has to control 3 positions: the general secretary, which allows him to control the party; the presidency, which it's more like a title rather than an actual position; and then you have the chairman of the Central Military Commission, which allows him to have military power. Now, once you lose control of the military, you might still remain as the paramount leader, but you don't really have the final say anymore. You essentially lost your power. So how did we come to this conclusion that he's lost his military power? Well, since 2015 to 2016, he's done extensive work to try to centralize power within himself, including in the military. Since 2012, actually, he's purged the military, trying to replace those who he deemed were disloyal or not so trustworthy, replace them with his so-called friends or loyal subjects, and in turn, he thought that this is how you can control the military. But fast forward to today, as you might see, purges after purges of military generals later, the military still is able to publish these articles, which tells us that he is not in control. And he perhaps isn't even in control of the propaganda system anymore. Because that's not all. There's also, around the same time that these articles have been floating in the PLA Daily, there's been an open letter circulating online. Now, the way that they do things is they publish it to influencers and social media personalities outside of China, and then they try to kind of import it or quote it as expert views, etc., back into China. It's a classic way of how they do propaganda. But they started circulating this open letter critiquing all of Xi Jinping's sins that he's committed since getting into CCP leadership. And so it's almost like there's simultaneous this propaganda push of being anti-Xi Jinping that's been happening in the party. And it might seem quite subtle, but it's actually really serious, because what's been happening since summer is that there was a rumor of his health deteriorating. Perhaps he even suffered a stroke, which we've covered. But during that time, one key indicator was there was an article called Xi Jinping, the Reformer. After hours it was published, it was taken down. So it almost feels like to me that during the summer activities, not only did Xi lose some level of power, even the people who were controlling the propaganda side of things, as the CCP or any other dictatorship goes, propaganda is everything. Even the person controlling the propaganda power may have been stripped away from his ability to access the key state medias, including that of PLA Daily. Or obviously, there's also the possibility that after seeing Xi Jinping suffered a potential stroke, or that he did lose power, that these people turned against him, right? All of these are very possible. Because here's the thing. You don't publish something about the paramount leader and then remove it a few hours later, because that's just not how things work. Similarly, you don't publish 5 articles clearly contradicting the style of government or style of power that the current leader is doing. Obviously, this all happens because, like in Game of Thrones, any of these mad kings, their eventual end are 2 ways, right? Either they die of illness or they're assassinated or killed somehow. Well, like any mad king that's ever been on the Iron Throne, Xi Jinping is also susceptible to these two factors: illness or death. So, really, well, age is also another factor, but really, ultimately, he either will lose some level of power because he was ill and he's not deemed fit within the party to rule, or that, he's no longer here. So it really begs the question, what happened during that time? If he did suffer a stroke, then obviously his opponents, right, are going to seize every little opportunity to strangle him and strip of his power. How do we interpret these PLA articles? Some of them are saying that we need to essentially have a collective leadership. Some of them are saying that we need to return to almost a democratic style of ruling. They're not just criticisms. They're in fact war drums. It's a signal that the next stage of power struggles within the CCP has begun. So I can confidently say, as we speak today, that Xi Jinping no longer has control of the military, and in turn, his time as paramount leader is going to come to an end. What type of form that's going to be? Well, that's what we have to watch for next, because here's the possible scenarios, right? If, say, they want to be nice to him, they'll let him retire like somebody like Hua Guofeng, who was allowed to basically grow old and die. Or if not so well, he might become somebody like Zhao Ziyang, who, because at the time Zhao was supporting reforms, he later got house arrested for essentially the rest of his life. Or he might end up liking like one of his old rivals, Bo Xilai, who ends up rotting in jail. So these are all the possibilities. Either way, you're not going to see the end of Xi Jinping fighting to keep his power, right? Because at this point, Xi Jinping is still the paramount leader of the CCP. You can almost recall the exact same scenario as before Mao Zedong launched the Cultural Revolution, because at that time, Mao also lost his control of the government and his control of power. What Mao ended up doing was he used the people, the bottom level, to rile up them into starting a whole new political campaign in order to regain power. That's basically what the Cultural Revolution, how it got started, was because Mao was in a power struggle with others in the CCP, and he needed a way to overcome these hierarchies that were in place that he was stripped of. So this is not the end of the fight for Xi Jinping, but without the military today, it's very hard for him to, try to regain what he's lost. But he's going to try to secure a way out that is at least not so horrible, like those kings in Game of Thrones. And we'll see what happens, because right now, as we speak, China is clearly not going through a period of nice, the economy's bad. It's a period of turmoil. It's a period of uncertainty. And so what happens when you have this? It's very easy to blame whoever's in power, right? So it seems like all the odds are against him. So let's also talk, because we mentioned this, we have to talk about Xi Jinping's inner circle, because at times like this, what's happening to his little confidants and goons? Are they not helping their master? Before we get to that, let me just do a quick sponsor video, because I have this great product here to recommend to you guys. It's something I've been using for over a year now. It's called GinEx Red Ginseng Extract, and it looks like this in a bottle with a dropper. So what I do is I like to call this product the coffee replacement, but with great health benefits. So here's why. Now, usually I get pretty tired around 2 3 p.m. because I've been working on video ideas or writing scripts. And I take 2 drops of this, just very easy, on my tongue. I'll show you in a bit. But what I do is I take that in the afternoon. It instantly gives me a burst of energy. And it's great because if you're somebody like me who's been drinking coffee for so many years that it doesn't really work anymore, like caffeine doesn't do anything to me anymore, or that I'm just trying to cut down on consumption of coffee, this does the exact same thing, yet with great health benefits, because ginseng, especially the brand that they use, which is the American ginseng, is known to boost your immune system. It's known to reduce your fatigue and is also great for recovery. What I've noticed about taking this long term is I have improved my focus and cognition. And one of the key aspects is actually I sleep much better. So the next morning I wake up, I feel well rested, and I can, go on to my day. But these are just some of the things that I've noticed. So it's a very immediate effect of refreshing your fatigue and then also a long-term help to boost your immune system and improve your focus and cognition. So definitely something I recommend. Check out my link in the description and you can get yours today. So right now there is a promotion. If you buy 3, you'll get your 4th bottle for free. Or you can also just purchase the single one here. Again, link will be in the description. Top echelon of power within the CCP consists of 7 people right now, the 7 members of the Politburo Standing Committee, including Xi Jinping and 6 others, who right now are all considered his loyal aide or trusted confidants, whatever you want to call them. So technically, if you consider this, he's got all these people surrounding him that are his trusted allies. How would he lose power? Well, it's very interesting because these people are personally put in place by Xi Jinping. But once they get into those positions, because you got to remember, right? For example, the second in command, the premier, is supposed to oversee the economy. You have somebody who oversees the judicial system. You have somebody that looks over some other policy side of things, the ethics or the disciplinary. When they get into the top position of those part of the government, they start to form their own factions and they start to build their own influence, regardless whether or not they're loyal to Xi Jinping. And it's almost like if you consider what's contradictory right now, the premier is trying to scramble around, making sure that foreign companies doesn't leave China to try to improve the economy. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping is sitting over there trying to investigate different foreign firms for being spies and trying to, do this whole like anti-espionage bill, right? So it's like, no matter what happens, if you're the premier and your boss is doing something that clearly is destructive to your actions, over time, they're still going to build up these rifts between them. So it's almost natural to me to think that at times where Xi Jinping, like back in summer of this year, may have suffered a stroke, that's an opportunity for these people who are loyal to him to defect to the other side. It's entirely possible. So yeah, politics is not friendship, and loyalty in the CCP means next to nothing. So at the end of the day, it's a survival for them. They scramble for themselves, and there's really nothing to speak of in terms of formal, relationships, loyalties of the past. All of that is just, it's very shallow in the minds of politicians, especially in the CCP. Now, the big question is, could the power struggle lead to the collapse of the Chinese regime? It's likely, but it might not work out just yet. Here's a very simple reason why that is. The problem with the current sort of power struggle is no matter who they want to replace Xi with, they're not trying to fundamentally destroy the CCP because they know that all these parties and these various interest groups within it are still benefiting from the system. So in my view, we should not be happy that there's some sort of a change thinking that it's going to improve for China. We should be happy because, well, we're going to see that potentially in the process, there's a possibility that the CCP could collapse. But it's also good to know where things are going right now. And from my assessment, Xi Jinping is definitely losing his grip of the military power, and he is facing danger of losing his political power as well. So that is where I'll leave it. And if there's any follow-up information, obviously, I will be doing videos for this particular topic. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's Elite Politics. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you agree with my assessment or if you've heard something else as well. And hope to see you guys next time. Make sure to like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.